Before a baby leaves the hospital after being born, he or she must have a hearing screening. The Universal Newborn Hearing Screening is an autoacoustic emissions test that identifies newborns who may have a hearing loss. If autoacoustic emissions are detected, the baby will pass the screening, and if they are not, then the baby does not pass and must come back to the hospital 2 weeks later for a second screening.
If the baby does not pass the second screening, then the doctor will refer the baby's parents to an audiologist for further audiological testing, such as an auditory brainstem response. If the baby is diagnosed with profound hearing loss, the parents must begin making many important decisions that will affect the development of their child.
It is recommended that by the time the baby reaches 6 months of age, the parents have decided whether or not they would like to have their child undergo cochlear implantation. Making this decision early on is extremely important because research has shown that children who are implanted earlier develop closer to par with their non-deaf peers than children who are implanted later. This is because there are critical periods for linguistic development in which the sounds of one's native language are learned, and the earlier children are exposed to these sounds, or phonemes, the less likely it is that their deafness will affect their linguistic development.
The earlier a hearing problem is noticed, the earlier intervention can begin and can ultimately lower the impact of hearing loss on a child's development. Without intervention, gaps in the child's learning will begin to appear. Vocabulary will not develop as quickly as they will have difficulty learning function and abstract words. They cannot hear word endings as easily, which causes difficulty creating and understanding complex sentences as it impacts the way children understand things like verb tenses and possessives. They cannot hear quiet speech sounds and therefore will not produce them, making their speech harder to understand. All of these aspects come together to severely damage academic achievement if the proper interventions do not take place. The gap becomes far larger based on the services that are provided or not provided and can affect children socially as they begin to feel isolated from their peers and unhappy.
One option for people who are deaf or hard of hearing is cochlear implants. Children can use cochlear implants from the age of 12 months. If you use them before 18 months, it'll have more benefits than kids who use cochlear implants later in life. Using cochlear implants earlier is better because of the important period of time for speech and language, but using cochlear implants are beneficial for any age.
If a child's parents decide not to choose the cochlear implantation route, it is recommended that they immediately begin exposing their child to another form of language, which in the U.S. is typically American Sign Language.
Children who learn ASL at a young age are shown to perform at the same academic level of their hearing peers. A study revealed that children who were exposed to sign language while waiting for cochlear implants developed receptive language. They understood comments, questions, explanations, commands, and they were signing simple phrases. In these programs, children achieving the most effective language outcomes signed early, suggesting that having access to early language, regardless of the modality, can provide a base on which the skills in a different language modality can be built. Again, the opposite from what has been said about using a sign language is true. It does not lead to isolation, but rather prevents isolation by improved integration into the respective communities.
It is possible that hearing loss might not be detected at birth or shortly after, and if this is the case, there are certain hearing milestones for parents to look out for. If these milestones are not met, there is a chance that the child could have a hearing loss. From birth to 3 months, the baby should startle to loud sounds, quiet or smile when spoken to, seem to recognize your voice, increase or decrease sucking behavior in response to sound. From 4 to 6 months, they should move their eyes in the direction of sound, respond to change in tone of voice, notice toys that make sounds, and pay attention to music. From 7 to 12 months, they should enjoy games like peekaboo and pat-a-cake, turn and look in the direction of sound, listen when spoken to, recognize words for common items like cup or shoe, and to begin to respond to requests.
Deciding between the two communication methods, speech or American Sign Language, depends on many factors. These factors consist of the degree of hearing loss, the age of diagnosis, level of family participation, and hearing potential. It is recommended that the choices for the two communication methods be the one that fits the family's needs and is inclusive for all family members. The most important thing to remember for the development of children who are deaf is that time is critical. The earlier the intervention process begins, the healthier the development of the child will be.
How do you feel being deaf has affected your development?
I think it affected me because I was in a class with 7 boys till 8th grade, and then I think that affected me a lot because they weren't really nice. And I think it affected me because I was really hard of hearing in my right ear, and I lost all my hearing when I was 15. And I think that really affected it because I couldn't really hear. And then in December, I got a cochlear implant, and it has helped so much. And I have over 80% now.